Hello there everyone, and welcome to our Creative Kickstart class with the beautiful Storybook Fantasy release. So today we are going to be creating this card using one of the beautiful layered flower stencils that we do have in the release and one of the sentiments too. So to start with, I am going to be using this one, and this one is one of my favorites from the release. So this is the Hill Blossoms layering set, and we do have the layering guide on the back. So to start with, I'm going to be taking a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card base, and I'm just going to be stenciling on all of these beautiful images onto my background. So I'm going to start with the first piece of the leaves, like it tells me to on the layering guide. And for this one, I'm going to be using the Silver Stone ink. So I'm going to be creating a really beautiful grey background piece first, and then we're going to add the colour on later. So I'm just going to add that one into place where I want it to be. Then I'm going to switch the little stencil around, pop that into place where it needs to be. I'm just going to add a little bit of tape there, and then I'm going to use some industrial diamond ink to add this layer on. Now I am using the little mini ink blenders from Altenew, as it's really easy to use these ones to get into the small spaces, but if you have the larger one, you could just mask off everywhere else that you don't want the ink to go. So once I have the leaves in place, I'm then going to move on to the flowers. Now these have a number of different layers, so we're going to pop the first one down, which is the base one, and this is the one that's got all of that open area for all of the flowers that you see. So for this one, I am going to be using the limestone ink, so I want these flowers to start off lighter than the leaves, so we are going to be using the same inks for the rest of the layers though. So this one was the limestone. Then once I finish with that one, I'm going to remove the stencil really gently and then move the second layer into place. So all of the layer for the flowers are on one stencil, and all of the layers for the leaves and stems are on the other. So once I have that in place, I'm just going to add a little bit of tape. You don't need to if you feel like you can hold this in place. So once I have that, I'm then going to take the Silverstone and I'm going to push that ink through the little open spaces in the stencil to colour the image behind. So this is going to add a really cool layer to those little flowers. Once I've finished with that layer, again, I'm going to take the stencil away, twist it round so I have the right part of the stencil again, and then pop that back into place. So when I'm happy with the placement, I can then add my little tape back on it to place if you need it again. And then for the third layer of these, I am then going to be using the industrial diamond. Now there's only a little part of these flowers that's going to need some ink, but it really does make a huge difference to the kind of interest that you're going to get from this. I'm then going to add the little spots in, so there's some little spots that just go into the center of the open flowers. And for this one, I am going to be using the pure graphite ink. So again, my little blending tool, I'm just going to add those little dots into there. Now, as you can see how I've layered this stencil up, it does look really, really beautiful. And I'm just going to do the same for the other images that I have around here. Now I'm kind of using it like a jigsaw. I'm just popping in the larger pieces first, and I'm just going to move around the piece of paper that we have here, the piece of cardstock, so the panel. So I did start with the leaves. I do find this easier, but if you wanted to, you could always start with the flowers. It's completely up to you. Crafting is about what makes you happy. So if you don't feel that you wanted to start with the leaves, you could definitely start with the flowers. And you could definitely just create a whole background with just those little flowers that we have there. You don't really need to add the leaves if you don't want to. So I'm going to keep going with these two full images that we have kind of drifting off the side of this panel. And then I then wanted to add some little space with the spaces. And I just chose to use one of the larger leaves from the cluster just to go around and just add those in. I found it easier just to use the same leaf. I don't think it makes a huge difference, but you could definitely kind of mix and change the leaves if you wanted to. So once I have my whole panel, I then wanted to add some colour, but I wanted to add it to a panel that's going to be popped up. But I don't want to add the colour to that background that we've just created. So I'm going to add a little bit of tape behind the panel, and then I'm going to add some acetate on top. Now this means that I can see straight through to the panel at the bottom, but if I do stamp or add any ink over that, it's going to get caught by the acetate. So that's going to kind of act as a clear mask for us. It also means that we can quickly and easily line up the rest of the stencil so we have that continuous panel, continuous pattern along both of the panels. So for this layer here, I'm going to be using the grass field. Now it's easier to do this layer because we know where these need to be, so we don't necessarily need to do them in bits. We just need to kind of line them up with the panel behind. So once I have that grass field down, I'm then going to be using the mountain pine. So I'm going to add that into place. Again, I'm using the one that is already stenciled on the bottom panel as my guide where this needs to go. So now I have my vibrant coloured leaves. I'm going to move on to some vibrant coloured flowers. So this one I'm going to be using the Volcano Lake. I just love this colour. It's one of my favourites and it's never going to leave my craft desk ever. It's one of my favourites. I keep going back to it and I just love it. It's so pretty. So once I have all of the first base layers down, I'm then going to move on to the second layer, and this one I'm going to be using the Lagoon ink for that to add in that beautiful shading and depth to those little flowers that we have there. For the third layer, I'm then going to be using the Emerald ink. So that's going to really add a punch of colour there, and it's really beautiful emerald green colour, and it works so well with those lagoony colours that we have on the flowers. And for the little centerpieces, I'm going to be using the beautiful mountain pine for that one, just to add a green center into my flowers there. So once I have all of that done, I can then remove that panel that we have on the top of the acetate, and you can see the ink has been caught on that acetate sheet. So I can just wash that and use that again at a later time. I'm then going to add my pieces together onto a card base. So it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm just going to use some glue tape to add my panel down, and then some foam tape for that panel, which I'm going to line up before I place that down nice and firmly onto the card base. So for my sentiment, I'm going to be using the Tall Tales stamp set, and I also have 2 of the dies from the Halftone Circles nesting die set. I just wanted to see which one would work best for the sentiments on this set, and I decided to go for the larger one. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment onto a piece of jet black cardstock, just using some embossing ink, and I'm also going to be using the pure white embossing powder to heat set that, so I've got that beautiful white sentiment on that bold black background. I can then take the die again from the Halftone Circles nesting die set. I'm going to pop that into place around the sentiment and add a little bit of tape. I always find that adding tape to your dies is going to help them stop moving around when you do push those through your die cutting machine. So once that's nicely die cut, I can then figure out where I want it to be on my card. And there was this space here that was kind of bothering me, but I found that when I popped the sentiment down, it kind of worked perfectly. There was a little bit overhanging, so all I'm going to do is chop that off from behind, and there is the card complete. I really do hope that you liked the card and that you've enjoyed the techniques today too. If you do create a card inspired by this, it'd be great if you do share, because we'd love to see. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we really do hope that you enjoy playing with this release as much as we do. See you soon. Bye-bye.